Good evening, you're watching Just the News. I'm Amita Balachandra. We start off with our top story today. We're focusing on COVID. Union Health Minister Mansukh Mandavia has interacted with health ministers of states and union territories and urged them to focus on increasing COVID-19 vaccination coverage for school children. Precaution dose, he said, must be given on priority for the elderly and strengthen genome sequencing. Now, at the meeting, states were also urged to focus on implementing the organizational guidelines that have already been laid out by the center and to look at their surveillance strategy as well. All of this comes in while India has now reported 8,084 new COVID cases in the last 24 hours, with positivity rate going above 3%, and this is for the first time in 4 months. Now, 1,885 new cases have been reported from Maharashtra. Maharashtra is continuing to report the worst number of cases in the country, along with Kerala. The daily positivity rate pertains to the percentage of people who test positive for the virus from the total who have been tested. Moving on from COVID now to what's happening in West Bengal. The West Bengal Assembly has passed a bill to make Chief Minister Mamata Banerjee the chancellor of state universities. Now, this is a position that was traditionally held by the governor. The West Bengal University Laws Bill 2022 was passed by 182 votes in favor against 40 not in favor of the 294-member assembly. Now, the BJP obviously has opposed the bill and alleged that appointing the chief minister as chancellor would lead to direct, and I quote, political interference in the state's higher education system. Now, updates on the controversial remarks that were made by former BJP leaders on Prophet Muhammad. The suspended BJP spokesperson, Nupur Sharma, now after Mumbai police summoned her for questioning, the Kolkata police have now summoned her for questioning as well on and before the 20th of June. The Kolkata police have registered a case against her under sections 153A and 295A, which is deliberate and malicious acts intended to outrage religious feeling, among others. Now, massive protests, if you remember, took place on Friday across the country. Many states reported violent protests as well. Ms. Sharma has now been summoned by the Maharashtra police as well for questioning. Apart from the Kolkata police, the FIRs now have been registered against her in Mumbai, Hyderabad and Delhi. For those of you who want to understand what the timeline is, what really went wrong, what the global outrage was, and how it impacts India, we've put out a whole story on this story. It's on our YouTube page. Do take a look at it. Subscribe to our YouTube channel. Also, like and share this video as well. In the meantime, this is a report by Indian Express. Now, speaking to the Indian Express, former Allahabad High Court Chief Justice Govind Mathur on Sunday termed the demolition of activist Javed Mohammad's house in Prayagraj as illegal. Now, here's what happened. Civic authorities in UP's Prayagraj demolished the house of a Welfare Party of India activist Javed Mohammad yesterday afternoon, and officials claimed that it was illegal construction. Now, the demolition, however, interestingly comes a day after the police arrested Mohammad for allegedly conspiring to carry out violent protests in Prayagraj. In the meantime, this is a report by PTI, which has quoted Arab news based on sources. The Kuwaiti government has decided to arrest and deport an unspecified number of expats who participated in a protest against the controversial remarks made by two former BJP leaders, as the Gulf nations' laws do not allow such demonstrations. Now, Arab news, which has quoted sources according to PTI, has said that instructions have been issued to arrest expats from the Fahalil area who organized an illegal demonstration. On to politics now. Congress leader Rahul Gandhi appeared before the ED today for questioning in a money laundering case related to the National Herald newspaper after protests by the party in Delhi and other parts of country. Now, protests took place in several parts of the country like Kerala, Karnataka, Maharashtra, Assam, Gujarat. In fact, General Secretary Priyanka Gandhi Vadra and Chief Ministers of Congress ruled Rajasthan and Chhattisgarh marched to the Enforcement Directorate office from Akbar Road as well. An update on the Satyendra Jain's case. Now, Satyendra Jain has been sent to 14-day judicial custody in connection with a money laundering case, and this was reported by Live Law. Jain was arrested on 30th of May under the Criminal Sections of Prevention of Money Laundering Act. Now, ED has alleged so far that Jain and his relatives control 5 shell companies. Also, news that came in from Bengaluru, actor Shakti Kapoor's son, Siddhanth Kapoor, has been detained for allegedly taking drugs during a party at a Bengaluru hotel. Now, acting on a tip-off, police raided the party at the Park Hotel and sent samples of around 35 guests for medical tests. Officials have said that 5 guests tested positive for drugs and Siddhanth Kapoor was one of them. Moving on to environment news. Now, it's not really good news coming in from Delhi. Delhi has recorded more than 42 degrees on 25 days this summer. And this is the highest since 2012. In 2012, the Delhi's temperature had exceeded 42 degrees Celsius on 30 days. Now, in 2019, Delhi had seen 16 scorching days, and in 2018, the temperature had exceeded 42 degrees Celsius on 19 days. Now, that number has gone up to 25. Delhi, as well as parts of Haryana and Uttar Pradesh, have been experiencing record high temperatures over the past 3 months. Moving on now to business news. India's retail inflation has eased to 7.04% on an annual basis in May, down from the 8-year high in April. But this is not good news because it's still above the RBI's tolerance range, which ranges from 2 to 6%. Now, this is continuing for the 5th consecutive month. In April, the CPI inflation stood at 7.79%. Meanwhile, amid a strengthening dollar and rising global oil prices, the rupee has crossed the 78 rupee mark against the US dollar for the first time today. Now, the Indian rupee touched a lifetime low of 78.13 rupees to the dollar. The currency has slipped to an all-time low of 78.29 rupees in the morning, but recovered some of the losses by the end of trading. Meanwhile, Nifty has ended below 15,800 and Sensex tanked over 1,456 points. All the sectoral indices ended in the red, with bank, capital goods, auto, IT, metal, realty. All of the indices fell 2 to 3% each. On to news coming in from across the globe right now. A bipartisan group of US senators on Sunday proposed steps to curb gun violence. Now, this comes after the mass shootings in Texas and New York. However, the limited measures fall far short of the president's calls for change. Now, the new proposals include tougher background checks for gun buyers under 21, increasing resources for states to keep weapons out of the hands of people deemed a risk, and cracking down on illegal gun purchases. Now, the senators also call for increased investment in mental health services and school safety resources as well. One piece of good news before we wrap things up here on this bulletin. This is also our sports news for the day. Indian sprinter Hima has won a gold medal in women's 100 meters at 61st National Interstate Athletics Championships in Chennai on Saturday. Now, she tweeted, and I quote, "Happy to make a comeback after an injury and hard work of nearly 2 years. Looking forward to give my best in the circuit in the upcoming events." End quote. That brings us to the end of this bulletin. Thank you so much for watching. Good night.